Jessica Ramos. I'm the proud state senator representing District 13 in Queens, neighborhoods of Jackson Heights, Corona, East Elmhurst, a few blocks of Rego Park and Forest Hills. I'm born, raised, and raising two beautiful boys in that district. I chair the Labor Committee in the New York State Senate. I started my career in public service 20 years ago. I worked in the City Council during the Bloomberg administration. I was a member of the de Blasio administration. I rounded out the team that delivered on universal pre-K, and then I was the director of community and ethnic media for the city of New York. And now it's been 7 legislative sessions in the state Senate. I'm the last person to have raised the minimum wage in New York State, tied it to inflation for the first time in the history of our state. I've expanded childcare eligibility throughout my tenure. And I really want every single New Yorker to feel that this is our city. I think what Latinos and Asian communities have in common is that our parents believe in hard work, and they came here so that we can have better opportunities than the generation before us. And that doesn't feel like it's true right now. I mean, it's harder than ever to be able to own a house in New York City. And we work so hard. It has to amount to something. And so I really want to deliver on the educational and economic opportunity that we've been promised. I think that is something that would make all immigrant parents really proud.
Okay, let's move right into that. You mentioned education. Our first question is from CACF's youth, who are a part of CACF's Asian American Student Advocacy Project, or ASAP. Now, in the 2022 to 2023 school year, students who are English language learners, or ELLs, make up 17% of New York City's student population. That's over 134,000 students. They represent a rich diversity of linguistic and cultural backgrounds. Students who are ELLs of Asian and Middle Eastern descent make up over 20% of all ELLs in the New York City public school system. Their needs go beyond translation services and interpretation. So, what is your plan on addressing challenges ELL students face in public schools? And how would you create school communities where ELL students will thrive and feel like they belong? You have 2 minutes for the answer.
They do belong. Every child belongs. And I want to make sure that we are expanding on the community schools model, where we're serving the child beyond the classroom and really thinking about our education in a way that includes the entire family. My education plan is everything from universal childcare for newborns all the way to digital literacy for our seniors, so that we can do a better job of bridging those communication gaps between generations. When it comes to our English language learners, I think oftentimes we treat that as a disability, and it's not. It's a superpower. It means that child is on their way to being fully bilingual. And that is a beautiful thing that every single New York City child should be. I think it's a tremendous way to actually combat the hate that many times is our experience, whether it's in the Asian community or in the immigrant community writ large. So I want to make sure that they have all of the resources available to them, making sure they have tutors, making sure they have extracurricula, including school counselors, in order for them to be served holistically and they can be helped to really establish their place here in the city as they deserve.
One follow-up there. You represent Queens, or parts of Queens.
All day, every day.
47, go Queens. Okay. So 47.5% of Asian Americans live in Queens. More than half, or 52% of Asian Americans, they live in Queens, as I said, with a significant population also in Brooklyn, Manhattan. Coming from Queens, how does that give you a unique perspective in terms of the Asian American community and your vision for this community and their needs when it comes to being Asian American New Yorkers?
Well, I love this question because, as a true daughter of my district, I was born in Elmhurst Hospital. Growing up in that part of Queens, even 40 years ago, we've always been so diverse. And frankly, to me, no one is a stranger. I can vouch that, the most different people from us are actually really good people. And our challenge is ignorance and apathy and the xenophobia and idiocy that is spewed by the current federal administration. And so I feel as though my personal responsibility, no matter what title I may hold, is to be an ambassador of coexistence and peace, which is what we've been able to emulate in my district for so many years. And, I'm very proud to represent a good portion of Elmhurst, which is one of the largest Asian American populations in the entire city of New York, with the most delicious food to match. And so I really want to make sure that everybody feels safe in those communities, that everybody is able to keep a roof over their heads, because I think very often we don't talk about poverty in the Asian community enough, and how it is that we can strengthen the programs that are out there to be inclusive linguistically and economically.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about public safety. The Coalition for Asian American Children and Families prioritizes understanding and advocating for alternate forms of safety. Issues like addressing anti-Asian hate, including anti-Sikh hate and Islamophobia, are critical to supporting safety in communities. In addition, alternative policies for responding to mental health crisis intervention is a last resort in both the AAPI community, a heavy immigrant community, and other marginalized communities, as it often leads to the involvement of police. As mayor, what would be your vision and policies to build a city where people feel safe?
This is a very important topic. I want to make sure that absolutely every single person feels safe in their city, in our city. And I'm very proud of my record in the Senate, where I voted to protect a person's right to wear religious garb during service, whether it be the Sikh crown or a hijab or facial hair. That is really important. But fighting bigotry really takes a paramount of education. There's just so much ignorance. And frankly, I think we can do a better job, because hatred is taught. We have to really unteach the hatred that has been passed down from generation to generation. This is why I'm a fan of actually having other children from other cultures learn more about a particular holiday. So for example, for Lunar New Year, making sure that my children have a curriculum that better understands what that means, and exactly how we can dignify the story of Asian Americans here in the United States, because it's so profound, because it's hundreds of years deep, and because this country would have never been built without our Chinese and Asian American immigrants.
Okay, and I had read that in terms of public safety, I read that you don't have a driver's license.
That's true.
And you take the subway every day. Do you feel safe on our subways?
I generally do feel safe on the subways, and I know I'm very lucky that nothing has happened to me. I mean, the story of what happened to Michelle Go is a terrible tragedy, and the reality is, I think many of us feel nervous when we see people displaying erratic and unpredictable behavior on the subway. That's normal. What's not normal is us as a society waiting for someone to get hurt to actually do something about it. So I'm here to say that you should visit my website, ramosfornyc.com, to read about my mental health initiative called Harmony NYC. We have to reopen our mental health institutions. We have to get people to the help that they need before someone gets hurt. There's nothing progressive or compassionate about allowing people to sleep on the subway or on our streets. And that's especially true if they're suffering from a severe mental illness. Our city hospital system, all 11 hospitals, should not just prioritize our physical health. There should be psychiatric beds at every single one of them. We need more supportive housing units. We need the ones we have to actually be utilized for those who need medium-term care. But there are people who are going to need longer-term care. And right now, we just don't have those facilities available. But as we work towards closing Rikers Island, and I believe we will, we're going to close Rikers Island, we have to have the right facilities in order to get people the help they need, even if it's long-term. But it's important to really protect our lives on the subway.
Okay. Thank you.
And I say that as a mom of 2 teenage boys who are now taking the subway by themselves, and I get tiny heart attacks every morning. Thank you.
As all parents probably feel that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Let's move on to public benefits and the health of children and families. Here's our next question. And putting it in context, the staggering impacts of the effects we are seeing under this current federal administration and their cuts to programs include increasing disenrollments from health insurance and food benefits, even for children, pregnant women, and others with health conditions requiring care. Medicaid cuts will greatly impact AAPI New Yorkers. Over half of all AAPI women giving birth in New York City are on Medicaid, and notably, AAPI children are the highest percentage of children uninsured by race here in New York City. How are you planning on investing in the health of children and families across New York City amid these debilitating federal cuts? Once again, you have 2 minutes.
Well, look, maternal mortality, maternal morbidity, maternal needs are something that have traditionally been an afterthought in our communities, whether you're talking about the Asian community, the Latino community, or the Black community, especially Black mothers, actually. So making sure we have culturally competent care with doulas and birthing centers in every single one of our boroughs that is accessible and affordable to our families is really important. I'll be honest, I'm not a believer in making our healthcare a commodity. It is a human right and should be accessible to everyone. I'm the proud co-sponsor, prime co-sponsor of the New York Health Act in the New York State Senate. And I just believe that everybody should have access to care without an insurance company gatekeeping your well-being. So as mayor, I think it's important to bring insurance companies to the table and tell them what's what. It's important because, I mean, even when we're talking about home insurance, right, or car insurance, or even when you talk to doctors, medical malpractice insurance is high, and that has contributed to a lot of the healthcare outcomes that we see needs for improvement. So that is definitely something that I want to address, and then making sure, of course, that we are expanding coverage is really important. There's no reason why anyone in the greatest city in the world, one of the richest cities in the world, should be devoid of healthcare coverage. I've been supporting coverage for all in the state Senate throughout my tenure. I will continue to champion that effort as mayor. I actually think the mayor of the city of New York should be the biggest cheerleader for these and many other things. So expect me to continue to be as loud as I can.
Okay, and that is time. Let's move on to language accessibility. This is a very important topic to the AAPI community. Many AAPI families rely on public benefits and city support for housing, healthcare, food security, and many other needs, yet they often are encountering cultural and linguistic barriers. Language access is essential to our community's ability to equitably engage in city services, resources, and feel integrated within our communities. As mayor, how do you think city systems should change in order to create a more language accessible New York City? You have 2 minutes.
So as I mentioned, I'm the former director of community and ethnic media for the city of New York. I think it's important to remind New Yorkers that often, so much limelight is given to mainstream media, but actually more people depend on community and ethnic media for information in New York than ever before. So prioritizing our community and ethnic media, all of our Korean and Chinese and all of the other channels that are available and publications, I think is really important. Making sure they have access to the decision makers, not only the mayor, but my full cabinet. More than that, I think we've traditionally prioritized the top 6 or 10 languages in New York City, but the numbers show that we are just much more diverse than that than ever before. So I'd like to expand language access to the top 20 languages. More than that, I want to streamline 311. I think within and of itself, our 311 system can be better, but one of the ways that it can be better is to make sure that they are connecting you to someone in your language in real time so that you can talk to your city directly or get help directly for what you need. I also think in general, when it comes to public benefits, we can do a better job of using presumptive eligibility as a tool. If we already know that a family qualifies for 1 or 2 services, why are you just making it so burdensome to then have to fill out a 6th and 7th and 8th application? It's stressful. It's the same documents. We have technology now that can help us streamline these processes to make sure that whether you speak Punjabi or Thai, we can help you. And that's what the city of New York should prioritize.
A quick follow-up. Do you have members in your campaign who speak AAPI languages and is doing outreach to the community to get your campaign message across?
I believe we do. And yes, I mean, we have volunteers who are knocking on doors in all sorts of languages. I'm proud to call many of them my personal neighbors in Jackson Heights, the Elmhurst and East Elmhurst area. That's always been my approach to governance, is inclusivity.
Okay, all right, let's move on to affordability for housing and food. 1 in 4, or 25% of AAPI New Yorkers live in poverty in this city. Bangladeshi and Pakistani immigrants have the highest poverty rates at 32% and 29% respectively. This, of course, is amid tariff increases, rising food costs, and loss of federal funding to food pantries on top of the ever-growing housing prices in the city. What is your plan to address these different ranges of affordability for New Yorkers?
Well, everyone knows that the rent is too damn high. But no one likes to remember that the wages are too damn low. And so I'm here to say yes to a rent freeze. I'm a rent stabilized tenant. I've been in my apartment for 13 years now, and it has been a lifesaver. But we also want to make sure that we're working towards an economy where parents and adults in general should only really have to depend on having one good job to provide for their families. Enough of this having a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, and a side hustle in order to make ends meet. That is inhumane. I don't believe anybody should be working more than 8 hours a day. And this is why I've been so vocal about our home care attendants too, who should not be working 3 shifts in a row. Everybody deserves rest, and everybody deserves time to be able to provide to spend with their families. I actually think this is a big part of public safety, making sure that parents are home for dinner, to check homework, to establish a bond with their children. So I want to really prioritize the way in which we are guaranteeing job opportunities for people with the crises that we're facing. Yes, the affordable housing crisis, but also the mental health crisis, in addition to the child care and elder care crisis. If we were addressing all of these things in real time, and the climate change crisis, we would actually be providing real jobs for people. But I'll tack on one more thing, and that's property tax reform. We also have many Asian American homeowners in New York City. For example, in Richmond Hill, Queens, they pay $7,000 a year for a 1-2 family home. And meanwhile, in Park Slope, if you own a townhouse, you're paying $2,500 a year in property tax. That is unequal, that is unfair, that is unjust, and it takes the right mayor in the city of New York to direct us to comply with the property tax law.
Okay, that is time. One follow-up here. Asian American seniors are among the city's fastest aging growing senior population. How will you prioritize Asian Americans' access to high quality senior care, but also senior housing, which is a big issue?
Yes, we do have to build more housing in general, but senior housing is especially important. Look, I think even people who have pensions and have Social Security, oftentimes it's not enough. I mean, my father retired from this country and was unable to make ends meet, so he decided to move back to Colombia in order to make sure that he had adequate housing for himself. That's a reality that many of our immigrant elders are faced with. So I want to make sure we are building more targeted senior housing that is really low income housing, understanding that many of our immigrants don't have pensions to rely on and don't have Social Security that they can tap into. And heck, we don't know if we'll have Social Security funding in a few years unless we make sure that we elect Hakeem Jeffries as to lead Congress and hopefully a new president in the next term.
All right, and that is time. Senator Ramos, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.